I don't believe it.
Pat,
Lake Park celebration.
Oh, all it is,
Page or whatever.
So my, yeah,
That was the new one.
I have this one on as a conference for the audio.
Right.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
There is a ticket in to get a Polycon system in this room, so we can have the video in this room. It's a
Okay.
mobile unit that is being used at another event tonight, or another one tonight.
If somebody has preference over us. Belton Club or it's somebody else.
Like a ballot counting. Should be the ballot.
I guess the good news is we have the nicer room.
counting.
All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's 5:59. So we'll wait a minute and then we'll start.
Joanna, I do have up just on our screen here, just our agenda. If there's anything else I'm gonna pull up, I'll pull it up and present my screen as well.
Joanna, I'm
Okay.
gonna, I have 3 handouts that I'm gonna use for this meeting. 2
Okay.
of those handouts are what was in the email that I sent you last night at midnight on the
Okay.
splash pad. And the 3rd handout is what I sent out to everybody 3 weeks ago on the approach to project
Right.
planning. Okay, so those are the, for at least my sections, what I'm gonna talk to. And if you're the, is anybody else online? Okay, so you can just pull them up. Okay, and so it is now 6 o'clock. So let's say disagreement.
We are recording.
That we're recording. And, let's,
Usually when we're here, there's a few late minutes, people just trying finding it, but. Hi, Marco. Good, thank you. How are you? Welcome.
so just for clarification, this is being audio recorded, but not video recorded.
Both.
It is.
Mhm. If
Video.
I present something, it'll work, it'll.
Okay,
it'll-
but us and Zoom are not being.
I mean, I am with part of Mark.
Got
but-
And I'm gonna record this.
I could also sit my phone.
No, it's
Record
fine.
them if you like, but-
Just for clarity.
Okay.
All right, well, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. This meeting was properly notified to the community. So welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us on this evening. If we look at the agenda, we basically have any topics you all would like to talk about, but I had proposed, and we more or less agreed on 4 topics, so I'll just read them off. 1, talk about committee assignments. Splash pad RFP, we've had at least 2 meetings between the subcommittee and some other conversations between Jacob and others. So there's a bunch of activity that we'd like to update you on. Then we're going to ask Mark, in case you weren't planning on it, we will ask you to just kind of give us an update with town hall. I know there's a phone call tomorrow, but anything to add. And then lastly, to talk just in general, I had sent out a blueprint guidelines as to how, as we go through each one of our projects, that we can ensure we address all the key points, the objectives, how we do site selection, budgeting, how we get proper community input, permitting, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll talk about that just so that it's out there. And as time goes on, we can say, you know what, for splash pad, we can skip this section. We need to do that. Town hall is kind of a little different animal than the new projects. But nonetheless, I think as I visualized all the work that's being done versus this approach, it actually is, we're doing many of the items anyway. The only thing I'd like to point out, today is a very important date. As most of you may know, today at 5:30, 35 minutes ago, the polls closed for the voting for the change reflecting for the funding of the capital budgets. So the online closed at 5:30. They're now, and they have those results, whatever they are. And now they're counting the 300 to 400 paper ballots that came in. So I think if I got the numbers right, Jacob, let's see if I can remember them. I think there was 1,600 electronic ballots, 400-ish, 500-ish. So you had 21 or 2,200 people voted, which is, I
Wow.
think, a huge number.
I think if I remember,
Yeah.
if I don't misspeak, we actually had a few more online votes for this than we did on the last election we held for the board.
Yeah.
We did do some campaign, Lauren, it was low by the time she came back. She put out a few additional notifications.
Yeah,
And each time we did those, that's what really
bumped it up.
bumped it.
So,
Mhm.
so,
It
Yep.
seems very, from mine and Lauren's conversations, it's really 50-50 that it seems
Yeah.
on it.
right. So we will talk about at our next meeting, or perhaps by the end of this meeting, if we, I don't think we get any feedback until all the votes are counted. But obviously that directly and indirectly will impact future projects. And the splash pad has been approved, but, clearly, the next biggest project that will encumber those funds will be the 851 remediation. And depending upon how the voting goes, that could impact, if it gets voted down, there's a potential that there may not be available funds until it gets filled up, which could be, a while. So we don't need to project too much on that. We'll just wait for the results from the community. But I think the good news is almost 50% ish responded, which for one item, vote is good, I guess. So with that, any questions before we begin? Okay, committee assignments. I sent out an email on, I guess it was last Tuesday, yeah, a week ago, Wednesday, whatever day, losing a day. On Tuesday, the 5th, just outlining there's 4 projects that were part of phase 1, the splash pad, town hall remediation, which was kind of off to the side, multifunction, sports courts, and parks enhancements. Right, so those 4 projects, we have a leader for splash pads and a team identified, and that team has met several times. Others want to join, them more than welcome, but right now, Joe, Joanna, and Bob are on that team. Jacob is an honorary member or an official member, whatever the bylaws statement can be. And so we're making progress there, and we'll give you an update in a few minutes at the next agenda item. Town hall remediation, Mark and Alec and others have held meetings, issued RFPs, got responses back, and we'll get updated there. So there's a core team of Mark and Alec. I'm participating ever so slightly. So there's, if somebody wants to help there, they can. But where we have a gap is in the next 2, which is multifunction sports courts, where Marco has graciously agreed to lead that team. We don't have any team members, and we do not have a team lead for parks enhancements or any team members. And, sports courts and parks enhancements may be for budgetary reasons a little further out, but we can start doing a whole lot of the groundwork so that when the funding's available, not like splash pads where we got the funding, we're doing some of the groundwork. It'd be nice. And I know as far as multi-function courts, a lot of work was done over the prior years, but nonetheless, I think we can, anyway.
We're
We need-
talking about the sports code that the Mike design on lot B, right?
Yes. So, yes,
Just a comment.
yes.
You might want to consider putting a couple of the SMEs from the previous project on this.
Yep.
There's a lot of history, there's a lot of drawings.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things and connections to
Which project?
the courts.
Okay.
KPM Franklin, who was worked with, as was Collect, who was the lead on it too, so.
Yeah.
Now
Now,
we want to consider.
now as a citizen, so help us with that since you have a good history there too.
Sure.
Excellent.
I'll just plan on super deep into that.
I know you do, and so does Mark
Mark.
and Marco.
Who's the expert on court design and all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
Right,
And that's-
right. So,
The good part is I just know it fits. So
That's true.
I read enough of the engineering to understand the civil.
and I think that's important that some of that work is done because I still run into people who say, oh, you're building the pickleball courts. No, it's not the pickleball courts, right? This is different. Several of the courts, maybe many of the courts will eventually be for pickleball, but that's not the design, right? And so, so we just need to do some more work on that, and especially, to help educate people. Because I think that would be, and to figure out all the different options. We did a lot of work under Mark's leadership and others, and Marco's on the, in the strategic plan. But there's now step two, which doesn't, which step two, maybe, starting to identify who would we go to for the, the engineering plans, who would be potential vendors. You could do all that, not spending a penny, but have it lined up so that, talk to those vendors, et cetera. Some of the work we're doing fairly quick, and that with the splash pad.
Yeah, it's relatively straightforward, and obviously the same civil engineers. Design wise, they look at that. But yeah, it's easy to put that together.
Good. Okay. Parks enhancement. So as you may recall, we identified somewhere between 7 and 12 parks enhancements. I forget the number. I think it was like 9 or 10 probably. Different things. Some as small as, putting in, additional shade in some of the playgrounds, to some being a little bit larger, such as building gazebos and others. But that's one where it would be really important for a group to start looking now, saying of those 10 projects, here's ones that, immediate impact, cost, because we didn't do a lot of that. We just said, we went around and we said, okay, this needs this and this. But for that team to start to ferret through, hey, listen, we could do 2 of those next year, or 2026, we could do 4 of them. It costs about 100,000. Here's what it looks like, just to really start to dig deeper, because we didn't dig really deep. Mark did, drawing the designs, but in terms of content and what that would look like, I think there's the next step. So.
Yeah, the board is obviously going forward with bathroom practice,
Yes,
so that's gonna be the, I think, what is 300,000.
yeah, which was, right.
This is the bathroom renovation at Lakeside and Spring Park, not the bathroom projects part of the master
Yeah,
plan.
no,
Yeah, well, we de-scoped, we didn't have, we de-scoped,
Yeah, we had.
except for building a new bathroom at, what do you call it, Rogers Park, whatever the name of it, East Lawn Park is called. Great.
East Lawn and also,
The greens,
The
the
Greens,
greens at East Lawn, yeah,
the Greens at East Lawn.
Yeah.
It's new bathroom.
Artisan also.
at the amphitheater.
Again, I'm just, from a money standpoint,
That's
you
it.
gotta be really paying attention.
Yeah.
As the board continues,
Yes,
how it's gonna affect us.
Yeah.
right. Same pot, and we just don't know if that spot is small, medium, or large, depending upon town hall remediation and the referendum that's being voted on
It's gonna
today.
involve money.
Okay.
The restrooms came,
Just throw it in when I have something. Sorry, guys. The parks, at the last board meeting, they had the landscape architect had his report along with Brian from Exquisite. And it was 2 or 3 pages. And it probably was, help me, Jacob, probably about $500,000, opposed to $500,000 worth of expenditures.
over.
Over.
But they,
Oh, sorry, went through each part.
but were those mulch and plants and trees, or were those, I'm gonna add,
Some of both, some of them.
but to do enhancements or to do,
Most of them are, there's a couple over 100,000, a couple floating at about 100 to 120. I think a lot of that is looking to come out of reserves. There's parts of it that will be capital, but most of that is out of reserves, which did have the change in funding for starting next year, but they all haven't been approved. But they're being entertained with the
all for
timeline.
no reason though, like as we're doing work with Town Hall, Mark is on it, as we're doing work with Splash Pad, I'm on it, and others. We need somebody to take the lead, to look at the projects, go read through all this that's been done, what's being done, be our advocate, understand, communicate, and kind of come back and ensure that our strategic plan and how it overlaps with the this more tactical. Because last time I saw that list, it was a lot of things like mulch and trees and I don't know if it was.
Adds up and the board's pretty excited about it.
Oh, yeah, that's up and that's what the town's asking for is can you make, before you build anything new, can you, enhance and improve what we have? But we just need to understand that so we're not in the vacuum right there. So, all right, we have no volunteers.
Well, I'll either volunteer to help him. Or whatever you,
Okay, we're gonna,
because I was.
well, I know you're doing a lot. Well, would the two of you want to lead, co-lead, the two?
Is
we
there
could-
a leash on what you're doing?
I mean, co-lead, would you be interested for the parks? Perfect, so you got two co-lead.
Sorry, who's that?
Just for note taking.
Okay, are you taking notes? Well
No,
done.
no, I don't.
You don't know who I
recognize
am when
the
I'm,
voice. No, I only recognize some voices.
I'm sorry, you probably recognize mine.
Yeah.
This is Jim.
Oh, okay, got it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we should just, we've got, well, who's not here? Alec is not here. I
I
believe.
think he's on the phone. He jumped on.
Oh, hey, Alec.
Hmm?
Okay, and everybody else
There
is,
is one other person on the phone with an MD. I don't know if they want to introduce themselves if they're on the committee or not.
Okay.
Yes, we do have one more.
okay, so there's one more person.
Oh, Alec dropped off.
Okay.
I didn't see Alec at all on.
No, might have been my error, but I thought he jumped on.
Okay, and Dennis, I'm sorry, was the other person, Joanna, that I was pointing to. So we have
Okay.
Dennis, Marco, and Jim, Bob, Mark, Jacob,
Alex is already.
and Alec is back on again. He dropped off when we were looking for volunteers.
Strategic, it's a strategic plan.
Strategic.
Yeah.
So this
Okay,
was for park enhancements. You had
park
Jim and
enhancement,
Dennis.
Dennis and
Who was leading this?
Dennis and Jim.
Both are leading.
Well,
Or is
they
there-
can spend time and figure it out together.
Obviously,
Jim's leading, we always have one leader.
for all those, I'd like to be a part of it. I don't
Well,
lead it,
you're
but,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't go too far without you.
Yeah.
And you've done so much work on it. Excellent. Okay, so we're gonna put Mark on that team. Okay. Fine. Unless there's any other questions on assignments, we can skip to an update for Splash Pad. Our Splash Pad project. So, we've had several meetings with Jacob, and we had a quick call today with Lauren. The subcommittee has had in person yesterday a meeting. We had a phone call. So there's a lot of activity taking place. Let me take a step back up. So the disappointing news is the initial RFP went out on the initial RFP for splash pads, which we discussed in our last meeting, went out on, well, anyway, the deadline for responses to the RFP was November 1st. And we did not get back any responses. So we anticipated that for a variety of reasons. Doesn't make a whole lot of difference to kind of figure out why that happened. We have a plan as to how to address it so that when we send out a new RFP, we get at least 3 qualified bids.
Has anyone done research about the newish splash pads?
So Lauren and Jacob has done that. Bob has done that. Okay, and so we know Kissimmee. You've got the RFP for Plant City. So our goal is to reach out, Jim, to all these local vendors, get copies of their RFPs. We have some.
Okay.
Get copies of their RFPs, see who their vendors were, talk to their vendors, and do this kind of iterative process. Then write the RFP. And let me just hand out what that's. So here's the updated schedule that I'm handing out. And
I just did a quick research. Out of.
So some of the vendors I was talking about put in like thousands a year.
Yeah, so did. Okay, and here's the second page, which is the,
Oh, I can pull it up too. Yeah, so that.
right, okay, this is the objectives. Here's the schedule. So this is just this was a cut and paste with some up-to-date edits as to what our objectives are with the flashback. Just so we can go backwards to those of you who are new. We said we were going to provide, a splash pad, safe and acceptable, children, families, safe, no standing water, place for social interaction, fun, sense of community, and to be open for all ages and abilities. But we one of the things that we were not clear on, I don't believe in the RFP, that we've had some internal discussions on that we need to clarify is, so what's the range? Plant City said 5 to 12. Do we want ours to be 5 to 12? Do we want ours to be 2 to 8? Because it makes a difference as to for the different types of things. So let me just scroll down a little bit on our objective. So the next thing we talked about, the objective is we're not going to exceed the budget, 600,000. It was bid. That's our budget. That's what was given to the vendors, right?
No, 625 was what was approved by or 525 is what the board approved to move forward, and what was in the RFP.
Yes, but they held back, what Jared expressed to me.
Okay.
They held back the contingency because that's contingency. I'm not giving you the
Correct,
contingency.
yeah.
I want to hold it back, which is a smart thing to do. So we told the vendors, you tell me by 525, and if you need the contingency, they held it, which is. But the budget is 6, 525 was in the initial RFP. So whether it's 525, whatever the budget is, we will build something to that budget.
Did you get any responses from the people that did?
Yes, I could have a whole documented list. We have a few that the hurricane threw them behind, and that they have, and that since the start of November, they're reaching back out, asking for the responses. They've re-engaged and just asked for an extension. The few, meaning really, I have 3 vendors that are, and I might honestly expect 2 RFPs return. One is being very hesitant because they want a deposit or a design build. I'm trying to say, can we just do something extremely high level at this point on what we could get for this budget, so that way, for the amount of 525,000, we would be possible to entertain a $3,000 design fee, but at this moment, we can't.
So we're gonna have a philosophical discussion in a minute
Okay.
on how to go forward. The other date, because whenever you do it, you want to pick a date. It would be great to have this open by next summer. Okay, so because otherwise we could study it for a few months, we could do whatever we want, and it would be summer 2026. So that's the objective. So any schedules we build in, we would want to go backwards from that date. And is that possible? I think it's aggressive, but we won't know until we go out and get some bids in and some timetables from vendors, right? And obviously, there's trade-offs between money and schedules, right? You tell a vendor fit it in when you've got some time, that's one price maybe, So anyway, but that's kind of the objectives. Hasn't changed much, except for the target date, which is just, an arbitrary.
All gonna come from
Yes, this would come from the capital accounts.
which is about how much you were saying.
No, hopefully capital's got more. How much is capital's got? 4 million. 4. Okay, so
Landscape.
So now, Jacob, let's go to the next page, which is our. So next is a revised schedule. So we have a decision to make, okay? And a recommendation that we want to do, because right now we issued the RFP. the RP said two things. You must come on site and you need to respond by November 1st. Only one person came on site and nobody responded to them. Which is fine. Again, why we got here doesn't make any difference. We just gotta go fix it. Or the subcommittee's recommendation is just put a pin in it, write a new RFP, send it back out, and give everybody the opportunity to rebid, to bid for the first time, as opposed to handing out extensions to the existing. So Jacob, I think that's a discussion. Discussion, because under this scenario that's up on the wall, right, there is no, we're not giving anybody any extensions. That bid is done. We're now gonna go have conversations. We're gonna go gather input from the vendors, from Plant City, from Kissimmee. We're gonna go to the Parks and Rec Committee. Again, I'm proposing this, I'm not, this is just, we'll go to the Parks and Rec Committee and say, can you come up with some themes? Because some of the vendors asked, well, what theme do you want?
Most of the vendors that re-engaged asked about, do we have any theme?
Just give me a splash pad. They can head back to bid and it's got all spaceship. They said, what do you want spaceship? I didn't want spaceship. Oh, you wanted Disney characters. I don't want, well, what do you want? Well, what do you got? And the one guy I spoke to, he says, I got a binder. What page do you want?
Yeah, you need some kind of.
So they need some, and we want to tell them, here's the theme, and you tell me what you can do within that theme, or two themes.
Mhm.
But we need to come up with a theme. Our friends at Grand Mayors came up with a good idea, but that's one idea, and it's a great idea. But so one of the to-dos out of this meeting is we're gonna go to Parks and Rec. I keep looking at you, but Parks and Rec and say, can you come back to us? Right, because we're gonna have a workshop on December 2nd, after we've gathered all this information, all these RFPs, and we're gonna, and within 5 days after that, say, here's the new RFP. And we'll have the theme in it, and we'll have the age groups in it, and we'll have vendors that we know are gonna respond because we've been talking to them. And then we'll issue that 5 days later.
No, I'm just wondering, are we going to give them like the top 10 and let them work from that, or?
Not that for themes?
Yeah,
No, we're gonna tell them the theme.
we're just telling them,
Here's what I would recommend.
Thought,
If
yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking about it is, like Joanna did at one point, she pulled up images
Yeah.
of splash parks.
Right.
Do that. So if somebody could put together images of, we like this idea, that's what would tell them what to do instead of a
That's
written
Yeah,
explanation.
Okay,
It's visual.
that is what they were asking
We
for,
like
pictures.
Part of the work is we want a plaque for the wall.
yes, yeah, yes, right,
Yes.
because
Like that.
Joanna
We
went,
like this, we like that.
Joanna went and got, from right locally, so we know that they could do it and
Right.
have done it. And when we did the strategic plan paper, our vendor went out to Google and got some pretty pictures, right? And if you go to Splash Pad USA's website, they got lots of pictures, right? And so somebody's got to kind of distill all that though, so we just and give.
Yeah,
So
class
how-
developments we like. So a lot of these, I
This
just,
is,
while I'm sitting here, I did
Yeah.
research on who's done quite a few of these around here and found it. So Village Pools of Central Florida has done the one in Claremont, the Champions Park, whatever it is. That is a nice.
So that was, I lost the first.
It is one that's actually been in a lot of the
Jacob, that's your
images.
number one in your email that you sent me.
Village Pools?
Yeah.
So he's mentioning, no, that one's not. But the new,
So
Oh,
this
you
group
had
has
some other guy.
done an absolutely incredible number for the major resorts around here.
Paradise Pools.
Paradise Pools, yeah, okay.
So anyway, this group's
Okay.
done a ton of them, gave them the information.
Okay, so we get that. So anyway, but
A lot of them.
so there's the new, so I think, given that, what we just discussed, I think we have to say the original RFP, since it was non-responsive, park that to the side. Get new vendors, old vendors, the 2 or 3 that Jacob's been talking to that are willing to bid.
Is the budget, sorry to interrupt, I'll come
Yeah.
to it at some point here. Is the budget realistic at all? In other words, is there feedback from these people? There's not a chance to act.
I've
Or
had
500,000.
3, out of the ones I've reached out, 3 I've had conversations with, and they've said that this is a a reasonable project for what we're looking
Yes.
for.
All right, thanks. I
Which-
just
which-
want to
which-
confirm that.
which was
The board has a way of, just here's the number, but that number doesn't.
Yeah, that was kind of one of my questions,
Yeah.
especially on the first, which was the on-site. We measure, he measured the zone. We talked about some of the elements we want. We don't want a flat, we want, engaging elements, visual elements from afar as well. And that I've heard a lot of comments from the other splash pad in town about the concrete base being like not good for the kids when they play on it, they get scuffed. So to look at alternative softer options. And then with the budget, what do you think? And they're like, no, this is a reasonable budget for the project.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
So
that-
Yeah,
Mark, the
they
one-
weren't like, we are
Right.
The
shooting.
one vendor I spoke to says, fine. I mean, the answer is to give 1 million, you're gonna have more things.
Oh, yeah,
but-
yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can get something reasonable for
Correct.
that physical space,
Right.
85 by
Yeah.
50 feet.
As we started on the parks, they had an unrealistic number in terms of.
The
So
only
it's
thing
all
that has seemed unrealistic is the utilization of our current shaded pump house, which is on the other side of the pool.
Yeah.
Because that's too far to run their pipes for a splash pad. While it works for a kiddie pool filter, it's too large of a distance under and around the pool.
So what we don't know, for example, here we go with the
Yeah,
contingency.
we have to add a new mechanical section.
So the splash pad guy could say, I can do this, but he's gonna say infrastructure, because the guy I was talking to says, okay, you're gonna have water fountains. I don't do water fountains. No, we got water fountains. He just doesn't know, right? But how much is that mechanical? I mean, because that won't be in their bid, so we just have to.
No, that's part,
They would have-
that's part of it. It's just the only
Right.
notable item is it cannot be located where most people would think it would be located, which is in the current private
Private.
zone, shaded
Right. So
structure.
it could be at the end.
A few of them said
Yeah.
even in,
Okay, but anyway, we don't have to get into the detail. There's space.
there is space if I go to this.
Yeah,
picture
sure, right
here.
there.
in this one.
Right.
This is
there.
the space here we're
Right
discussing.
there. Right.
This space right here, they said that's plenty. It's right by this gazebo for this, or it could go behind or over here, but where the current,
Yeah. or-
this is where the current pumps are,
Too far.
too far.
Yeah.
Well, we
I
don't
would have
want to
expected that.
we don't want to go spend $500,000 to not have the appropriate pressure.
Yeah.
Choice, yeah.
Mhm.
I would actually stick it behind.
Yeah, over in this space
The domain plan, the main reason why is that gazebo or whatever ends up there
isn't,
is.
yeah, affected by
able
noise.
to, no, noise plus people being able to move back and forth.
Well, that gazebo is
Right.
open to this pool deck.
Yes.
This red line here is the hard fence with a fence here.
Sure.
It's also been communicated that anything we do, we want to try to maintain the current fence, or if the main fence can't be maintained, a fence has to be part of their bid.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Well, the assumption is you make them, yeah.
Assumption is, but also it's been
Right.
communicated to
Right.
them as well.
Well, okay, anyway,
There is a little more room
Sure,
there. so
yeah.
it could grow.
Just a comment, the RFP is gonna probably cause people to pucker a little bit again. That's the first time they're gonna go with that, with some pictures and themes, that probably will help. Might consider doing an RFI, just a request for information. That's easy for them to respond to, and it's just what their projects have been, what they've gotten done, they can throw that together quick. Don't have to worry about estimating and costs and all that. Then you've got something to work with and see who the people are that are players.
yeah, so we had this discussion and somebody else mentioned the variation of that, as I recall. And so, sure, we could do that way. It pushes the project out. And now, so it is an option. So either you would do that, or you would ensure, like Splash Pad USA, he's gonna submit a bid. We know he's gonna submit a bid. Okay, you find 3 or 4 other people will submit a bid, and we just save a couple months. It depends. We talked about the priorities.
I'll make you feel better. So
Yeah.
I think this is still true. I don't wanna create another debate, but we're gonna call 2 to 3 suppliers. We're gonna call 2 to 3 of the cities who have recently done work or entities that have recently done. I've got a list I've generated and I'm almost done with it. I told them if I'd have it by next Monday, I'll actually have it tomorrow. The questions we need to ask, it's things like, send us 3 of your most recent RFPs.
If we're gonna do it, but
Good,
we're gonna recruit it and have that. So like Splash Pad, when I spoke to him, he sent me a button. using the selling model, standard stuff, you just had a binder. But, so yes, we're gonna do that, but that, because we looked at the real question we had, and I wrote it down, Bob was very good with probing and pushing. I gotta find this paper, but it's budgets, timing, what was your third one? Design, right? And because if we get the best design, but it may take more of the timing and, budget. So those are the three pillars that we've got to balance, right? We want to get the best design, we want to make sure it's under the budget. And, we want this to be done in a timely manner, whatever timely is. If it's not summer, it's fall. But this is the first project in 6 years, 7 years, whatever the time frame is. So it would be great if we could get it done by next summer, if possible. And the vendors will tell us that. At least I believe, based upon the informal feedback that I've gotten from 1.5 people, one splash pad person, one construction person who doesn't do splash pad, does pools, that, I think it's reasonable for after you sign a contract, 4 months later to have the splash pad. But that will depend on staffing, weather, and lots of other things. So, anyway, so I just want to spend a minute on this actual schedule. So as Bob pointed out, we're gonna come up with questions. We're gonna come up with, vendors. For those of you on the phone, Mark just came up with another vendor who's done some work locally. So we'll have a robust list of potential vendors that Jacob will continue his dialogue. We'll make sure we're not calling the same vendor 3 different people. We'll kind of split it up so that everybody's got a couple to just have a dialogue, right? Just to gather information to help us with the rebidding. Then we're going to have a workshop the first week of December to take all that input and come up with an RFP. Somewhere between the 15 pages and the Polk County was 100 pages. Somewhere between 50 and 100. Now they're a government entity, so they're complicated. But we will come up with that the first week of December. We'll then either send it out or we'll wait until our next meeting to send it out for review and then send it out, a day after our next meeting on December 11th. Or December 13th, it says. It's over the holidays, so is that month realistic? Probably not, but then we'd like to send it out sooner because you like to get it back by January 16th, select the vendor by February 1st, get everybody to approve it, who needs to approve it, lawyers, contracts people, and sign it March 1st. That's an aspirational calendar. We know what we can work on is the first 3 dates on there, which is gather a lot of information, talk to vendors, and get an RFP ready. And then once we get that done, we'll maybe have a better idea as to if we can about the rest of the schedule. But we thought it'd be important. We agreed it'd be important to put a schedule together so that we all know what we're working towards. Questions? Seem reasonable? Okay. Fine. All right. Next topic is, I think, update. Mark, if you could lead us through maybe an update as to where we are, and then Jim, I don't know if you're at the last workshop with the CROA, and kind of get feedback as to where we are with that.
Just a curiosity, who would be interested in a working session? Visioning 3 hours, maybe 2 days.
Right.
And again, the whole idea would be to come out of it.
So we have our working group. We invite Jacob and if Mark can, anybody else, we'll publish it out, but at a minimum, we've got 4 people coming. And the more the merrier. The objective would be to read through all the data we got and say, okay, well, this looks good. Okay, Polk, Plant City said 5 to 12, or we don't, let's not mention age groups, or we should mention age groups, or, what's the input we've gotten on, themes, right? And just to kind of distill some of that, because Jacob's already done, some of the mechanical stuff, like, what sort of experience you need and there's
A
a lot of good.
a lot of that's, yeah, boilerplate RFP
Yeah.
out of another municipalities RFP as
And,
well.
and it's all good, but it just, I think the thing that we just need to work on is a little bit more direction to help them design, right? What are we looking for? And not to inhibit their creativity, but just give them a little bit more.
Mhm.
Okay. Mark, off to you.
So I've just pulled up what the discussion was. Sorry, feel
No, go
interrupt
ahead.
whenever you like.
No,
I
go
pulled
for
up
it,
what the discussion was at the last board meeting, which is going to lead to once we've been, so in the last board meeting, it was a request from the stakeholders on this town hall project, from this committee, that we get a rough ROM on a very high level from Colic. It wasn't in their current scope, but they provided one to us, luckily in time to take it to our board workshop on November 6th. These were the numbers that were presented during that workshop here. You add the first three lines together to give you what a renovation to the current building would be versus the new build, which is going to be that last line there. The numbers give you, a range on the low end of 2.6 million to repair, on the high end of about 5 million to repair. That's the current building to move back in, and at a new build, you're looking about 5 million to 6.4 million.
That's assuming that you're gonna do the rebuild exactly.
On this,
the same,
Same
exactly.
footprint, same.
Yeah, which I know,
Opposed to if we're gonna rebuild. we
You may
wanna
as well
look at-
combine.
a
it.
second floor.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I've heard a lot of that since
We
this
don't do
meeting.
it.
A lot of people
You
come
work
to me.
with CCDD and build it that way.
Yeah, a lot of
Was-
people come to me
was
about
it-
a second floor idea.
Was the plan to split
No.
the renovations into multiple RFPs, or are you gonna go for essentially a walk-in? Complete, the estimate and do it
The
by one contractor
one contractor needs
to
to
do.
do it, period. That is the only economical way to do it. The exterior has to be fixed, mechanical systems have to be replaced. So there's a no brainer of what needs to be done, and that's one shot, get it all done. The interior build out, there's probably room for really talking through what that means on the space. And work with Calic to understand what really needs to be rebuilt versus what doesn't. Or quite frankly, I think most of it ought to be open office space and open it up and just park it and new walls and new electrical and data and ceiling. So there is a range for that build out that could help those numbers a little bit. Shells to shell, the mechanical is the mechanical.
Mark, are you surprised? I'm just surprised on the mechanical. It sounds like,
This is why I wanted this done, because I knew it was double. So this met my expectation. Because the board had in their mind the entire time that it was 1.8, 1.9 million from that previous study that they
Right.
could have the building fixed. Completely, absolutely not true. And this is why this was done.
yeah.
So that you need to.
But,
the mechanical-
but the issue is,
We've got a lot worse.
the issue is, look at these numbers for relatively the first time. I mean, is it the low range or is it the high? I mean, that high rate, to say mechanicals is either 500,000 or 1 million. I mean, mechanicals are not hard to price out. The exterior is, but
Yeah, they had an explanation of what they meant. That's what the meeting tomorrow is about,
Okay.
is to ask,
right,
tell us what that means.
right, because
Hone in
well,
on
absent
the
of that,
levels.
somebody's gonna split the difference, right?
Of
and
course
say,
they are. That's why the board shouldn't touch this until it's designed out and have.
Is there a
discussion.
question on the phone?
Yeah, so I think Joe, and Mark and I connected a little bit, but I had a chance to talk with Kalik as well. So I think the numbers that we're seeing are ballpark price per square foot numbers. I don't know that there's a lot of detail behind, like you said, it should be easy to estimate mechanical. I don't know that this is an estimate. I think this is a ROM. And,
No,
you know,
just,
Yeah.
just, open your blue book of price per square foot of average mechanicals for an average building.
Yeah.
average day.
Yeah, it's not precise at all. It's just to give a general range, but this tells you the general range of what it's going to be bracketed. And even on the low end, it's halfway to a new building. So.
Yeah.
they do.
They did complete up there, we have 3 phases with Collick currently in scope of a
Yeah.
project. Phase 1 was the conditions report.
Yeah.
Which was completed in full and provided. That conditions report gives us the exact items on, the roof. What are we talking about with the roof? What's the recommendation on the HVAC system? What's that? So that's kind of where those numbers, they're not, while they are ballpark, they're based
It's
off of
based on
that
what
conditions
they've
report.
found. Yeah, it is. And that's why I'm okay with it. There is a
They're,
read,
they're ROMs. They're ROMs.
yeah,
So,
They're informed by what they looked at, but I don't know that there's much more science than what we typically would see in the construction for a roof coating per square foot.
so
right. Yeah, it's not precise by any means, way, shape or form,
Well,
but
thanks, first of all, for marking out
yeah,
the work you're doing.
it tells you that it's half the cost of potentially a new building.
Yeah, I guess the other thing, just as I'm staring at the numbers that jumps out at me is the exterior repairs, which we knew was, causing lots of the issues, is $1 million or $1.7 million. So split the difference, $1 million, right? Okay. The mechanicals we know are a problem. You can split the difference there. And that's kind of, what was maybe as we were looking at industry estimates. The number that jumps out at me is, $1.8 million for the interior renovations.
Yeah, that's where I think.
Because otherwise, because if you look at this, you may say, maybe we should build something new. Well, hold on.
Yeah, I know.
That's,
Correct.
the first
That's
two
why all
numbers-
this has to be qualified design. That number is way off.
Okay, and because it would,
That's what I said up front, is the top two are in the
Oh, the
ballpark.
ballpark.
The interior renovations
Is
can
that,
be
is
a
that,
lot simpler.
sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
is that mainly remediation or is that to just take all the wallboard down and replace it?
It's remediation is the wrong word, period. It's to stabilize the exterior. So there's problems. It is all in the report. The exterior wall does not need to completely come off. The windows need to be replaced. They need to be properly flashed. It was never installed correctly in the first place. The base of the wall has 1000% failed. What needs to happen that they suggest is basically cutting off the bottom of the wall and putting in a concrete curb so the water doesn't come straight in. And then bringing the studs back down on top of that and then redoing the exterior EIFS and bringing it down correctly with correct flashing to get it built right. So that is a 1 or 2 foot swath around the entire building. That's the expensive part. Plus the windows aren't cheap either. The roofing could take a coating on it to fix that. Gutters need to be redone. Some other wall repair where there was a little bit of water issues. But that's,
Mark, is all that the
Yeah.
interior that you just?
yeah, that's all the.
Okay, and that's short, and the mechanical, the AC
Yeah.
is old, it's got the electrical
It's been
issues.
applied. yeah,
That's
all
fine.
the HVAC.
But is then the internal, what would be in that scope? Besides,
The walls, the exterior walls inside need
Yeah, it's
insulated, refinished.
okay,
The ceiling in, maybe a quarter of it has to get redone, which probably means all the drop ceiling. Needs
Need
re-
new ceiling, new lighting
Right.
throughout.
Yeah.
What they were doing was looking at redesigning all the office space. I think you can do that to a degree, but they already figured out the number of workstations that a lot of this really just needs to be opened up. And then create some conference space for them, for the staff side, staff lounge space, and a couple private offices for management folks, and that's it. My opinion. They had a few more rooms than that. Clearly needs to be more simple. But what needs to be built in is a furniture budget, which is X, and an IT
The,
for all of that.
the sliding walls between all of the activity rooms are,
Yeah, I was talking about one side,
okay.
not the other side.
Well,
So one side's one thing, the other side is what we want to make of it. To me, it's creating a better board space and probably creating a meeting room that's its own thing than using the other 2 large areas as something that's more several different things to that. I do think the space needs its own studio space for the types of things that are not necessarily athletic. But there's not a correct type of space for some of the things that people do there. And so the setup and tear down that they have to do for different classes is ridiculous. So create a studio space that works for X, that's not athletic things that really need to go somewhere else. And then create a multi-purpose space that's a little bit bigger, and then a more correct boardroom that has the modern.
So that's,
So some of that cost then is actually modification of the existing.
Yes, it could be.
That's
Uh,
what we
correct.
could
Yeah,
do.
so,
That would-
to me, some of the walls could actually stay. There could be better use in the middle of this thing. So there's a big
That might
range
be-
there that we can. play with.
That stretches the price out a little more.
Yeah,
so, well,
so those numbers are really as if you're cutting it and starting over.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
so I think that, I think, well, so this is where it starts getting complicated. So you're gonna continue, we're gonna continue to learn more about this.
Yes.
And then strategic plan, well, wait a second, so just remind me, hearts, brains, souls, and conversation. This building, is this just to fix and make nicer the old building with half of it being town hall activities and half being community activities? But if you knew 2 years from now, you were going to have, or 3 years from now, you were going to have Heritage Hall enhancement per our recommendation.
Two different.
Right.
things. Two completely different things.
Okay, so where, are they completely different?
Yeah, well, they should be.
Yes, but if the,
The main, if I can say, one thing that has been a area that has been brought up as something that needs to be really considered and really more just addressed from this side or from this group is the use of those rooms and the real designated, because
yes,
right now, we have an internal obligation to make those rooms multi-purpose so we can rent them all the time and create the income off of them. Also, we have a lot of spaces, or a lot of people that have the plan on. I'm not saying that is that's what needs to move
it's
forward.
a philosophical discussion, because
But
you
I'm
need
saying-
karate next to.
That was my next.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Statement
if
was-
that's what you're forced to do.
We need to understand who uses it exactly and find out what their needs are for space and maybe try to bend things towards that direction of whatever space is created, that it's proper for that.
And if that,
Things that are karate class, self-defense goes out of there.
But I think that's
The other
a
one.
discussion. I think this group needs to make some sort of recommendation, right? Because it would affect the design. If you said this design, this is only gonna do two things for the building. You may not like it. It's gonna be town hall on one side and office meeting space on the other. It could be cards during the day and core meetings at night. Okay, and it's not gonna be for karate or other activities. So where's karate? I don't know, but hold on.
Yeah.
But that would be,
Yes.
that would be one. If say, no, just do it the way we did it, which is every other room is, karate, board meeting, jujitsu, and
Yeah.
people playing cards. But somebody's gotta, I think the program, the community will look to us to make a recommendation, whether or not they
100%.
follow it. But we need to make, in addition to making a recommendation as to what we should do here,
Yes.
it's what does that building, I know Mark, you know, what's the objective of that building?
I've already done that. But we need to work with.
Well,
Well,
does it mean karate club?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's.
So I can tell you what it's for. Sorry, I'm not
Yeah.
prepared to list this out.
Yeah.
We need to look at who does rent it first off and talk to, and understand where they get the revenue from and what those groups are. But again, the things that are physical activities that make the ridiculous amount of noise, those need to end up somewhere else. This is more for civic organizations and pieces like us right now, the board, any other committees, foundation, other people that use space for meetings, people playing cards, those type of things, sure. But it is something that we need to look at who's renting it, what their needs are.
and I think that can be more on a level of, is the room, let's say, this is a great example, the room we're in now, not the full facility, but this room. Are the rooms being outfitted with not exactly fixed furniture, but even to the level of always designated that there are tables and chairs in that room? Versus,
Don't have to take it.
exactly, versus right now,
Yeah,
that's
that's what I said.
completely in and out. And
Studio versus this.
Exactly, and that will help a lot on labor costs as well, because we have a ton of room flips all the time, and room flips are labor costs, and labor cost is expensive. So if we can set rooms more.
So as a reminder, Mark, corrected me, and I'm not sure I still get that. But the Civic Center, which we talked about, which is 851, is the brain, he said. And that brain would be community management team offices, public interaction, service meetings, civic meetings, board meetings, staff conference space. And then the last one says limited for community related rent, but not rentals, that's what it said. But not rental for organizations on a regular basis. So that's purely civic. And then we said somewhere else, which is nowhere else, would be all the, gyms, locker rooms, fitness, studio space, event space, right? Something else, which I said the poor man's version of that would be our Heritage Hall, which I know is not, this is really the community center, but we just need to say, listen, if you do this, understand you're not meeting this set of needs.
Yeah, 100%.
And that was
is
always
the
our
goal, is
plan.
to Define it that way.
Okay, so that's fine.
And we can do that.
This row all around this building.
Yes,
Yes,
So how did you get away with designing this way?
we did not.
we didn't, the developer did.
Developer built it.
Our Manami had an agreement. They built this.
But,
And then they
so
turned
can
it.
we use this?
So they turned keys over. This is a Croa property now.
No different than
So
it.
it's more or less like an HOA.
This is part of,
Oh,
this
this
is
is
part of the
okay.
Croa
Yeah.
HOA, yeah.
They're
This is
full-
not
no,
an
they're-
amenity
they're
center.
lakeside full.
Yeah. The expectation meaning the design, the item, I guess the item is, we can choose the design of that building. This building was passed to us.
Yeah, we just, if you want, it's really
Hey,
nice.
hey, Joe.
Yep,
Hey, sorry, I cut out there for a little bit. But I had a question back to the 851. So as we
Yep.
look at that, and I know there was a lot of discussion about the interior and what does it want to be, but I think, and we'll look to Mark here a little bit as well. But I think we know that the exterior is challenged today. And so if we had to make some sort of recommendation, the programming on the inside is down the road. Like we're not close to that yet. We can start thinking about it. But I would recommend us think about, if we believe that this building is going to be a civic building, and we believe that the renovations are affordable. Mark and I talked a little bit about this. We're not, we can stay below what the cost of a new building is. I have confidence in that. So are we really going to spend $5 million, $6 million on a new building? Let's not waste time. If we think a recommendation now is to proceed with the design for the exterior repairs, so we don't continue to lose an asset.
Yeah, I feel like we can still define I feel like the interior could be developed a little bit more and throw a real price at it is what I would ideally like to see, so that we know what the total is.
yeah,
So I think you can get it in the ballpark a little bit better. Because again, I think the staff side really probably ought to be more open office space and get that done. The other 3 rooms, that can be still easily guessed at, I guess, in my opinion.
so because Alec, the reason I think that's important, a cynic could say, we've never done anything at the low range. It always is the high range. The high range of that chart's $5 million. A new building could be $5 million. Let's build a new building.
I was about to say that.
Now, the thing is though, when was the last time we spent $5 to $6 million? We didn't even spend that on the soccer field. And with the approach of fixing, we can fix the exterior and get people back in.
For
Then we can-
1.8 million, you could just put a large Band-Aid around the building and on the roof and do the first 2 items. And then, the inside could be anywhere from 300,000 to 2 million. You could buy the
It's a-
furniture at IKEA or,
Yeah, it's not gonna be
Thing to take care of the asset. we
quick
have.
budgets.
So-
For it.
My question, I have a question. So could we engage with Calic if we just agree to just do exterior repairs?
Yeah, they're on already, but you fix the exterior, you still have to fix parts of the interior.
Yes, you do.
So we're,
Right.
You guys do the electrical.
there's a little bit more to it than just saying it's that simple.
Active
So
next
have
step
they, have,
is,
go ahead, sorry.
an active next step that came out of the board workshop last week is a meeting scheduled with Calic, this group, and the board. So it would be a meeting with, a joint meeting. And that'll be a real discussion of this, of
When you say board, I'm sorry,
the Crow board.
Yeah. and is that scheduled?
I
It is
guess
not, it's waiting on Calic to provide the dates.
what I want to know is like what's need versus want. I mean,
Well-
I know a lot of it's not want, but like what needs to be done to get you guys back in the building?
Because I think it's an excellent point, Joanna, because for example, okay, you know, as you do the interior, right, back to my old days, corporate, you know, when we built out toward the end, it was all open architecture and it was, you know, long tables with some nice separate, I mean, it was, you know, cubicles that were, you know, very cheap to do. And everybody was in a cubicle in a
Right.
big room. And that does not cost a lot of money to do. It's, you know, and
That's
by the
what-
way, two people got in office, you know, and there would be Jacob and,
Yeah.
and, Laura. And,
Yeah.
and that's what it's corporate. What I'm just saying is that, and then there's the, you know, let's build something different. So I think we have to lay out the different options and then
Right.
see what the function, we all agree the function of the building is.
Right. One half of it that's management really should be a couple of offices, a lounge, open space in the store, and a couple of cubbies.
And
The only other thing that hasn't been discussed in this room, which was in the plan currently, which was taking the transaction of the resident
Yeah.
service from
Moving
that
that.
window into the
Yeah.
foyer,
Bringing it.
bringing it in
Yeah.
and not having a closing door. So at the, end of office hours,
Yeah.
that closes.
Yeah.
And all of the merchandise doesn't get moved. Also, these types of conversations that are really too confidential to be having through speaking out into an atrium are not in the atrium.
Correct. yeah.
Yep.
Fully agree with you.
I think that's,
There's walls and things that might be able to say to do that. But again, that doesn't cost much relative to
Well, yeah, that's why.
an overall thing. It can be a simple.
It sounds like, is there a timeline at all for this yet?
As fast as humanly
That's,
possible.
and
Yeah.
I would think
Please,
If it's been talking to people, I think one of the things that, and I'm talking to the community members, people I live with,
Yeah.
they want the damn thing done.
yeah,
Well,
And I'm
everybody
just
would.
wondering if you couldn't do, and again, that's why I'm asking about it here, you do one general contractor is gonna do everything? Or you look at maybe one contractor do exterior?
If it's free to go for the exterior, then you let that go, if we're gonna take a little bit more time on the interior. Obviously, once somebody mobilizes all their general conditions, it's much easier if one contractor is doing it, because they don't, a second person doesn't have to come in. The other piece is when you have one contractor doing the exterior, somebody else doing the interior, they play along together. And one has to wait for the other to finish stuff, or not, because occupancy turnover, blah, blah, blah. So there's issues with it, rather than just getting somebody on board to run with it. So I hope we could do it concurrently. It's not that difficult of thing to program it and have it decide all at the same time. It's really not,
Mark, would
if
you
we keep
do,
it simple.
and they could do a bunch of the interior work while they're doing the exterior.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why I think it all be
You
done
could
by the
get-
same contractor.
Yeah, because the guys putting the rubber around the outside, you could be doing.
Well,
Yes.
the general's gonna have several subs no matter what.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I just want, but they're not,
That's,
But the
that's
building-
what I'm saying. You think it'd be cheaper and easier for have a general that does all that rather than
Yes,
somebody inside
yeah,
divvying it up and managing. it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Well-
100%.
well, it's probably.
It's mainly-
General contractor.
Yeah, and it is,
One of the-
you're doubling up on their having a supervisor out there, There's a lot of pieces and parts that if the overhead contractor doing things on site, that you end up doubling up that you just don't need to.
I know one of the asks kind of from the board was the next step moving into our next meeting, the joint workshop, is to consider the feedback from this committee and the finance committee on the decisions moving forward on, do we look at repair or replace?
Sure.
And that's kind of where there is a,
Okay, so they, right, I heard.
Alec, are
they
you
want
able
us-
to make that call tomorrow?
Alex?
Tomorrow afternoon?
It's at 2, what time is it at?
I think it's a 2.
Yeah, I'm on a plane, unfortunately, so I cannot do that.
2. I cannot make that.
Okay.
It is at
Would
1
our-
PM.
Would
Okay.
people's decision change depending on what's voted today?
What,
Building
The
guy-
percentage?
well, listen, I think the next step is for us, is we have the meeting tomorrow,
Yeah, the next step is talking to them tomorrow and talk through what they
right?
think and,
Okay,
Who's
kind of
them?
talk about some of these things we just.
Cal,
Okay.
With the design team,
have a design team,
Okay,
the design team along with.
and then we can get a better feel of kind of where the numbers fall when we describe, or what we just described of trying to keep the interior a little more simple. Where does that fall in this range? That way we know whether it's a 2.8 or a $3.5 million deal.
Well, I can tell you, with all the offices that have closed, there's a ton of very good use.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna
Can't
suggest.
give
For the
that
furniture
away. Can't
system,
give it-
you find, that's exactly what they should be doing is that. Yes, in Chicago, there's vendors that's all they did, was bring in the. full
Bring it in,
system.
and there's
So
a huge factory.
there's some research to find companies in Orlando that get the old systems
There's a huge
furniture.
warehouse I've been there in
Yeah.
downtown Orlando,
That's what we,
filled with,
there's, like, to your point, there's
Right.
tons of it.
right,
Yeah,
and then you
exactly.
could go approach Disney and others and see if they've got any in their warehouse, right?
Exactly,
You know,
yeah,
if
so-
there's,
Yeah.
There's ways to get all that cheaper.
It's just.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I was gonna bring that up.
I don't
as
think
well.
there's an
It needs to be a
expectation that we will be that a huge furniture budget for office furniture is needed. I agree.
No.
That's.
So I don't know what's in that
Yeah.
one.
You do need you need cubes at some level that work for you.
Mhm.
And that's the way to do it is,
Yeah.
is get small off.
I mean, we had to do, in our current in our temporary offices, we have desks that are where we spent $130 on each desk and then
Yeah,
Between Amazon and IKEA.
you need furniture.
that's more long-standing, yeah.
Yeah, well,
You need something.
you
that
get, the cubes are long, if you go get cubes
Yeah,
that are
that's fine.
industrial grade.
I know.
And you can
Okay,
find. some
the only, yeah,
main office furniture.
All right.
We can do
So
all that.
next, when is the meeting with the COA board where they would look to us? Is that
The joint
that's
meeting?
scheduled? Yes.
the joint meeting is waiting on the principal from a lick that was
Yeah.
out and since
Okay.
that meeting last week to
Okay.
provide dates and
Okay.
as soon as possible.
Okay, so which parlays into, next question is, at the last meeting, we agreed to have our meetings, I believe I wrote down, the third Wednesday of every month. Jacob?
That will work. It will work except for December.
Oh.
This month in December, the board's dates are shifted because of holidays.
Okay,
From the board always meets on the second and fourth, but
okay.
November,
So
December.
starting in January 3rd is fine.
Correct.
So, okay, so for December, we're gonna need to go to the second. Otherwise, we won't have
To the second Wednesday.
second Wednesday, sorry, to the second Wednesday for December.
December.
Okay, now, next thing is, will that be before? If that is,
That should be after our joint meeting.
Which
We
is so-
should be
okay,
having our joint meeting before then.
Okay.
Yeah, they
That's
what
need
we
to- they need to make a vote to keep going, or not.
but what they said they were
Based
looking,
on whatever.
Jim and Jacob, when they were looking for us, for our input, it would be at that joint meeting or after the joint meeting?
The joint meeting will be with you and the board, and that will be their input and their decision on what to move
I
forward.
got it. Okay, so
We
there's
do-
a meeting,
it might
we're
be-
gonna
We
invite-
gotta get a lot more information.
What information are you wanting?
Wow.
Well, that's why we get the call, but we gotta, to me, you've gotta fine tune these numbers a lot more. before everybody's gonna start making decisions.
Yeah, well, I think we can get it more of a range. That's what tomorrow's for.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that call we're having tomorrow should have been before this. Quite frankly, to have a better feel for what this means.
Well, I think, and again, as I look at it, that 1.3 million, right, is the difference between a low and a high. And for the 1.3 to 2.1, how much of that is furniture, which we all say, oh, we can do cheaper?
It's not
But if only, okay, but if most of that is electrical and outside walls, then that's,
Interior build out is floor, ceiling, walls, finishes. And obviously ductwork, every bit of that. So that really is assuming you got it, is what those numbers are. And then the difference between 90 and 150 is really the level of finish you put to it. So to me, this is still on the lower end of it. And it's not necessarily a complete of gut.
A high number would be.
The high
the
number
interior.
would be- Yeah, my only problem is, prices, construction price is way out of whack. But half that number would be just fine. This exact moment, I don't know where it stands.
Quickly, now they're not scope the restrooms because they were recently.
Yeah,
renovated,
those are fine.
but those are
Yeah, the
not
rest
in
of
those
them are
numbers.
Question
Just
for the
very
group.
obvious. Well,
the question, Alec, or what?
Question for the group. So based on the numbers that we see, which are ROMs, they are very high level with not much detail. What's the opinion of this committee? Is it repair with a cash flow that is pay as you go? Or replace and one big nugget of investment?
So Alec, I'll speak and then open up the floor. That, I think there's a couple of things I'd also like to know. Is it for the, so we're talking money here, time frame to do 1, 2, and 3 is X number of months. And to do a new build is X number of years. I'd like to know those 2 points, because if they're both 4 years, they're
No.
not, but they were, I'm just saying, they're both 4 years, a new build, maybe makes sense. If a new build is, I mean, first of all, you'd have to demolish the current building, right? And whatever, it could do permit, it's just way more complicated. So is it a 2-year time difference? Because I think back to the comment that was made by Dennis,
a year.
you think it's a year difference?
So if the design team was let go, and you
Yeah.
had a couple more months of designing and blah, 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 this thing could be done by the end of next year, the fall of next year.
The remediation,
We shouldn't call it remediation
okay.
for fixing it.
Fix it.
It's not
Oh, yeah.
remediation, sounds like you're removing mold. No, you're
Fix it for the fix it.
reconstructing the building.
Okay, that, so
It's renovations.
so that's 12, 15 months.
I think Alex
It's
is
less than
asking
that.
for like a gut check. What's the?
Well, I wanted to know, I can't do a gut check until, and a new build would take it.
Yeah,
I think your
that
new build is
could happen much
24
faster.
to 36.
It could be an 8-month time period. It just depends on permits and other things. They're X factor. But anyway, it could be completed next year. A new build is gonna put you out another good amount.
I think a new build is 24 to 36 months.
Yeah,
3 years.
I'd put it at 2 years from now.
Alec, what's your gut? Because you've been close to this a little bit more
So
than
it's
the
a
rest
year
of
or
us.
2 years.
What's your gut say? I know you asked a question, but I'll ask you for your thoughts.
I think we have a paid off asset. I think that we have opportunities to repair. And based on the broader master plan that we've envisioned, there are opportunities to address the other functions and needs with bigger investment. My gut is we repair and we pay as we go. So meaning we take care of the outside and we take care of the mechanical, and then we take care of the inside at a time that we can afford it. I fear that if we say, oh, we're gonna do a new build, we do not make decisions fast, and it's gonna be even longer than the time period that Mark and I think. 'Cause we're-
Yeah, personally, I think it ought to be combined with something else at that point.
But yeah, but
So
Yeah,
that puts
and
another-
that's gotta lump into to
Yeah,
loan of some sort, and then we're even longer. And so.
Alec, I think that's a good summary from my perspective,
What
but
did Stetson sell for last? And is the current owner gonna go belly up anytime soon?
Sold for 6.1. It's it's orthodontal, plastic surgeon out of Orlando, him and his wife, for rehab and a portion of it. Got other tenants in there. Last I checked, we talked to Kathy Carlson, it's about 70% leased. And he's
Okay.
getting-
Wow.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
It's about-
That's-
He's getting about $30.
Okay. Well, you did a good job.
good for him. All right.
Never mind.
Other thoughts,
Fix it.
other
Well,
thoughts?
it's good than ours. We, 4.1. We're gonna go after, a number of us will work.
Yeah.
And we passed, and some friends and family wanted to. They sold it to us.
All right.
Uh,
That's. really-
Alec asked for,
An opportunity.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
different.
Alec asked for gut checks, other gut checks around the room. I know some of you are new to this, some have been working for a while, but any other thoughts?
You know, for completion time or just some feelings about?
Feelings about, because they're gonna ask, the Crower board has really deferred to us so far as it relates to remediation, and under Mark's leadership and lots of other people supporting him, we've been doing, Mark and the collective, we have been doing a lot of this work. So they said, so what do you guys think? What team do you think? And he said, well, I don't have enough information. I said, well, what do you think? Because they're gonna, and he said, well, I don't know enough. Okay, what else would you need to know to make a recommendation? Because I think Alec raises a good point. Now, we don't move really fast. As Dennis pointed out, we're now, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 months into not having a town hall here. I lost track. And, you know, we don't have a town hall. We're having a meeting here. If the residents actually came to the meeting, there'd be nowhere for them to sit.
Mhm.
Right? So right now, that odyssey is going to continue for at least another 12, 15, our internal counts.
Less.
Okay, less. Okay, if we remediate, if we build, it will be years. So, you know, that's why the time frame for me is important, because I think doing, as Alec pointed out, we got to prepare the outside. You got to do the mechanicals. And then on the inside, whatever money you have, if you only got money to do X, you do X. You do it sequentially. You know, you do it as funding is available.
Well, we need to look at that. My only qualification of that is, again, bringing back contractors to do things, you're gonna pay more
Yeah.
labor.
That's-
So
Yeah,
it's one of those, you still need to balance it with what. That's why I want the design to go further. If we're gonna try to save it, we need to take the design a little bit further to find out what the actual cost is, which was the whole point of taking this through the next 2 phases.
And that's probably a great milestone recommendation. Like, let's turn on exterior design for 30%. And then check a 30% estimate, which is a lot more detailed than what we have today.
Yeah, I want to take since it's looking like it's less than half cost of building of a new one, we may as well fix it. That was kind of my threshold.
Yep.
In my head, quite frankly. So if it's less than half, which it is, or could be, is get the full design, and then we know the actual cost. So there's still schematic design to do, to work on just getting, okay, what space do we want? There you have that, and then do design development, refining that better, and then get a price. That price is what's gonna be accurate, because it has spec, it has what the build is, the contractor can throw a number at. That it's accurate. And then we'll know what it is either way. And then you can decide if you want to phase the construction of it based on what those numbers are. You can build in phase to it as part of the documents, but get the design done so that you know what the cost of the project is.
But the bad thing is you won't know what the cost is, so somebody tells you what they'll do it for.
Yes.
You know, we can do you can get, but Calic does not do building. They just project how much it might cost.
They do
And
both.
they're
They're actually
clear
building
that
them. Yeah,
they're
fine.
pretty rough on that too. So the bottom line is, you won't know how much it's gonna cost till you ask somebody to do it, and they tell you how much they'll charge, and that's quite a ways down the road already.
Yeah, we need a full.
My gut feeling is, if I were the board and trying to represent the community, I would say rehab and move on.
Well, that's the plan. That
Yeah,
is
that
the
is the
scope with
plan.
Halleck, is to get it to that point.
Yeah.
It was slightly paused after phase one by seeing the conditions assessment and seeing the scale of the conditions assessment on, do we continue down this path? Or do we take a quick pause to say, are we going to continue down this path? Are we going to look at a rebuild? Or even that option is, are we going to rebuild with a different scope? I mean, I really think that's where this committee needs
Yeah.
to decide their voice in those three options.
Basically, what we're saying.
No, we need-
Keep going.
oh,
Yes,
hold on.
keep
We
going.
don't- We don't,
And Mark and Alec
We
and
don't-
others will continue to gather information. But as of
Yeah.
this moment, we say keep going.
What we're
Alec,
spending is
please.
design fees and get the design to where it is accurate.
Alec, was that you trying to speak up?
It's already.
Yeah.
It's already.
Guys, hold
know
on,
we're-
guys. Alex is trying. Yes, Alec?
I know we can get really excited about the programming inside. But Joe, Mark, we've been through this with this town here for the last 12 months. We will get wrapped around the axle. We're gonna get scrutinized about why we're doing this and not building a new thing and why we aren't programming it for something. So I think we need to just pump the brakes on the inside. Because everyone's gonna say, you don't have money, you don't have money, you don't have this. So just be careful. I think turn on the design for the outside, turn on the design for the mechanical, but start to do some concept development for the inside. But my personal opinion, I don't think the job is about the inside and directing the programming. We just gotta get this asset that we own livable. And then we can make decisions on what this concept on the inside needs to be. And again, it can slow roll itself, but we don't have the money. We don't have there's gonna be pushback. Let's just close up the outside and focus on the outside with some slow roll concepts for the inside programming. That would be my.
I agree and disagree at the same time. To me, the office space side is a no-brainer. You open it up, put in a few offices, move the stuff to the front, and just open office space and get it done. That does not need any input from anyone. The other half is the piece that is open to interpretation, but it's frankly not that much space. So,
But day
We don't
one,
wanna
you do
get-
not.
yeah,
It's
we
the way
We don't want to get, we don't want the exterior hostage to the interior, so that's why I'm saying that. So we could probably open up the office side, but we need to move on the exterior.
yeah.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to say is that's half the interior be done, the exterior be done. And then there's that other piece, but if we can, get further design on that. I don't know,
For the benefit.
while you're getting all this going, there's still time to design and finish off whatever the interior is, at least have a scope that can be priced and then figure out how to roll it out.
For the benefit of our new members,
I said, we do have 8 minutes left of this meeting.
okay. 5 minutes, what happens?
Just so.
Hey, one
Back to
question.
everyone's time,
Yeah.
there is the.
Yeah. Okay, so just quickly, and then we're gonna wrap up on this, so we get to our last topic. Thank you, Jake. The capital projects like the splash pad, like building and some of the other things that we had, come out of something called the Capital Reserve Fund.
Yeah.
Which currently has roughly
Roughly 4, it's gonna be a little less than space, but I haven't paid all.
playground. Okay, so.
Is that public information?
Yeah.
Where do you get it?
It's on the website. All the different funds are there, the reserve are there. You can see the balances.
And like you've shown me where it is.
Okay, so, and now, without getting into all the details, that has some barriers as to what you can use that money for and some interpretation of that, right? But it's not, we can talk about the interpretation, but that our projects would be funded out of that, as would the 851 remediation. That's my question.
And then the recent reserve study that was done.
Yeah.
There's about, what, 750,
720,000.
720,000 of reserve fund.
After 30 years. That's how much we put aside.
No, we, yeah. we-
That's okay, 3 years.
Don't think it's a building's 30 years old. And
No, the building's beyond its useful.
well, and we collected 725.
That's a part of its useful.
Yeah.
It was a school we bought it.
I Anyway, so the 700,000,
700,000 that could be used for
right, for
the
that,
replacement of
the first,
furniture and things like that, right?
or rubber seals or whatever.
And that's not part of the capital reserve.
No,
So there's a capital fund and a reserve fund. They're separate,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've got to work on the finance committee. That's not fully allocated. We just got the new study and that's in 2025 and the expenditures in 2025 are off the chart. So we have a look at that and probably gonna massage it. So probably won't put that much away. I'm not gonna do 700,000. Maybe 300 or 400,000. would be my bet. But that's gonna be, that would mean.
Okay, well, anyway, so my point is, there's a finite bucket, there's money that gets added every year and money that gets subtracted, but that's as we talk about all of our projects. So, you know, if we end up spending, I'll make it up, $3 million for the, what we call it, renovating, that's what I put.
Repairing.
Repairing.
Renovation. Renovations,
This
right.
bucket, now we'll see how the vote goes tonight, but that's, you know, how much we get to spend, right? And there's other competing forces that want to come take money out of there in addition to our strategic projects.
There's also, is there a minimum that's required for a real emergency? When I say emergency. So you can be broke, you could have no money at all in your capital
The
reserve.
only restriction of the capital fund, it has to have a minimum balance of 250,000. That's the only restriction. You can use it for whatever the board would approve.
Right,
Is that the only fund Go has in reserve?
no,
Yeah, there's an operating fund that has about $1 million, or you've got working capital there. Then that, reserve, think of that as restricted. That's restricted, that's at $1.5 million or there.
okay, so, in respect for everybody's time, we can continue, after the meeting officially ends. After the meeting officially ends, we can talk, further about, any discussions, relating to, the repairing of town hall. But the event,
So one-
yes,
Joe, one question on that, and
Yeah.
email response is good, but we did have a question, I don't know if we got to it. The immediate recommendations of preparing, you know, adjusting sprinkler heads and caulking some windows, do we have any action? Has Grand Manager taken?
oh,
any
that's
action?
right, yeah, that was on the, thank you. Yeah, do we know that?
Any repair to the physical building has not been done, or to the landscaping as far as pulling.
Not,
back.
so not,
Has not
nothing.
been.
The only thing that's done is the AC is on.
Correct.
So here's my strong recommendation. There's a window that is open to the elements. Somebody's got to caulk that. Go turn the sprinklers on and make sure they're not pointing at the building and clean the gutters and the downspouts. Like, I think those are easy things that should be done right away.
Thank you.
The gutters were
Yeah.
cleaned
Yeah.
a month and a half ago,
Okay,
but yes,
but
yeah, you could
we
do that. Uh-huh.
thank you, Alec, for that important.
Check the storm drains too, right? So not just the gutters, the downspouts and the drains that they go into, and make sure all that's cleaned out. Because that's where it backed up and that's what was in the report.
Oh,
I actually got confirmation that the sprinklers have been made, confirmed, they do not. They do not face the building and the storm drains were jetted.
Okay, so now it's just the caulking.
Perfect, thanks.
My
Just a window on the caulking on the window.
Yeah, you may as well just throw some comprehensive stuff. And if somebody has a trouble to go around the base of the building, please.
Okay, in the remaining 3 minutes, this is a guideline that I put together for us to look at for as we do these projects. And it's kind of like, well, there's nothing, you know, that's for here. But, you know, we've done through the surveys and our strategic plan, getting community input and needs. But as we go do additional projects, whether or not it's forming new committees, using the celebration Parks and Rec, and I forget what you call it, but all the other committees, there's already these existing committees that cover technology, they cover Parks and Rec, they cover the other one, got like 4 committees. Anyway, there's existing groups of residents who cover just about everything that we've got that's in our strategic plan. So as we want to gain input, that's a vehicle that we need to utilize. It's part of when we were given our a resolution. It says make sure you work with those groups, and that's a great logical place for us to get help. So just as, you know, as we gather community input, that doesn't mean we're gonna go do more surveys necessarily. It means there's a group of people who you know, have been meeting regularly for the last 10 years, who have a lot of input, insights, and experience. Site selection, depending upon the projects, budgeting, obviously very important. You know, permitting and approvals, that has been problematic. And for other projects here in the community, you think, you know, in the case of splash pads, you tell the vendor you're responsible for the permits, but that doesn't mean that we don't, it's our responsibility to also ensure. It's like we talked about the splash pads. Bob asked the question, who's going to become in our subgroup the splash pad expert? So that you could answer questions like one vendor asked me, gee, do you want the recurring to flow or to recirculate for the splash pad? Because those are two different design points.
They need to.
Recirculate.
Right.
That's just it, but we are choosing a recirculating. system.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but,
It's up to the,
okay,
it's up to the designer to explain it to you.
okay, but, okay, and then you'd have to tell it to the vendors. Well, first, you would ask the vendors, or would you silent on it? I don't know, but the splash pad expert would be somebody who would say, based upon, yeah. Anyway,
You need to hire somebody like,
Diane, I don't know.
that permits playgrounds and knows what specs are and
Right.
rules and all that.
we have,
There's somebody that does that with black. You can find that person.
right,
Yeah.
okay. Anyway,
That's what a lot of these companies have. They should be able to present you with the options.
Yes.
Here's this system, this system,
yeah,
this
check this box.
and here's what that means, and here's what the cost is. So
Which was out.
they need to, they need to explain to you what.
Yes, but you build that need as they're doing this in a very collaborative way.
Yeah.
When they're talking to us about it, there still needs to be somebody who's saying, okay, I understand that, thank you, okay, and be able
Yeah, I
to
agree.
ask the question, the probe,
Yeah.
because this is a very specific thing, and, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of discussions, but there's gonna be discussions. You want, what type of paint do you want on it? Because they all come without painted, and they put different types of paint on it. Do you want this type of paint? Do you want that type of paint? You know, it just,
These types of projects are
That's why
all,
there's the difference between somebody that's designing something and somebody that's just vendor that just goes and builds it. The designer of who that is, and these groups should have that, should be able to present all that to you
Yeah.
and present what that means.
As a
It's
plumber, the pro-
like building a house. The homeowner has no idea, so the design team has the responsibility of educating the client
and then,
making those
Right.
decisions.
but somebody has to,
Somebody has to be that person
Yeah.
receiving it. That's what you're after.
would we consult with our director of facilities and operations on staff who is a CPO as well, or any.
so we're gonna work through that, but that's a challenge. Then obviously the design piece, which is like town hall, big piece. You know, selecting the bidding process, selecting a contractor, managing the construction, the testing and inspection, marketing and community engagement, and ongoing maintenance and operations. And I guess historically, and this came up for those of you who weren't here, you know, every time we do a project, and then we say, uh-oh, did you realize that this means, you know, like somebody had pointed out, well, if you do a splash pad, you need a lifeguard there. Do you know, what's the ongoing maintenance that's needed there? Whatever those things are, that we understand all those things in a project plan before we do it and say, no, we're not gonna have this, we're not gonna do this, we're gonna do this, whatever it is. We know every question and we know every answer. It may change, but at least we've got that framework. So the subcommittee is gonna come up with a project plan for this after, before, during, or after when the final vendor is selected. And it will have, 200 tasks. Who's responsible for them, beginning date, end date, and then what decisions do we need to make as a community to give proper input to that vendor? And it's now 7:33. If, I would.
We're ready to bring to the Park and Rec committees, some recommendations about the birds or.
Yes,
the
we're-
ants,
Jacob and I will send an email tomorrow out to the Parks and Rec, asking them for their assistance as it relates to
The next.
theming.
Next meeting,
My
we
recommendation would be
Yeah.
that this committee choose images that they would like, and then as far as relevant to theme, and to give them an option to select. You think that they?
I want to, I think we should do a little bit the opposite.
Okay.
Ask them to think about themes and we select.
Okay.
Okay, it's nothing
Not
but,
only about the splash pad as well, but about the court and the parks enhancement and everything. Parks and Rec. Big Victoria is super active, so if you can help a lot.
but, specifically, because there's a lot of things that we could do. But what should be the theme is really important. And we need to give guidance, and it should be more than three of us sitting around the table saying, hey, I like animals, I like,
Yes.
I like, whatever.
I-
Well,
Or-
I'll pivot it another direction. It shouldn't have a theme. It should be- That time was.
That's okay too.
Joanna.
It's not a-
Yeah, but that would be great too.
Yeah, exactly.
That would
That's-
be,
that's all I'm
like,
saying.
'cause I
It doesn't
saw-
need to be done.
I saw one of the plans, it had like three different sections. One was a water tower coming down, and it could just be, no, I want not
I want
themes,
these
but
elements.
functions. I want
Yeah.
three different elements.
Joanna, as we wrap up,
That's why I
were you
like
trying to
it.
say something?
Yeah, Joe, I think I like Jacob's approach. If we approach Parks and Rec, we should say, hey, these are the things that we're thinking about. What is your opinions? At least so they have something to collaborate with. If we just ask them, hey, what do you want? They're not really collaborating with our group.
Yeah,
But
I
that-
feel like it is a study, like what you did do, of pulling images of things and of elements that.
If you
Yeah,
guys
or
like
like
that,
Bob
think-
said,
Okay, so we could go
his-
to them when we're then more towards the end of the process, after we've talked to vendors, you got that. What's that?
How many people are we talking?
That are on the Parks and Rec group?
Seven.
Seven.
very active. But this,
Next week will be Tuesday.
That means Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, the general, very nice.
Yeah, but, okay, I got it, yes, they come to the meeting.
Say one thing you want to think about, make a field trip. If you've lived up north or any place, you've seen these great wolf lodges,
Yes.
the indoor water parks.
Yes.
Which are giant splash pads besides the rides and all that. There's one that just opened in Florida, I'm trying to remember where it was, it was Naples, Naples, I couldn't remember where it was, in Carroll. A field trip to Naples to see what goes on the inside, would be like a candy store, outside if you want.
I can get pictures.
Okay, the meeting is now adjourned because they're locking the door, unless you want to sleep in here.
Good friend of mine took care of that through construction.
Really?
Yeah, so.
Those things are,
Oh, yeah.
thank
they're
you,
all-
Joanna.
Thank you, Joanna, thanks.
Bye.